So, speaking of next year, Jeff, the win totals are out for each team. And for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, basically all of these betting sites, FanDuel, DraftKings, and even, just Vegas casinos, they basically give you an over and under on each team's win totals. For the Atlanta Falcons, our win total is 7.5 games, which, by the way, is really like that. That's a pretty big shot to us, I feel like. I'd hammer the over on that. Jeff, am I overreacting there? Like, do you think that line is criminally low, or?
The only way the Falcons win less than 8 games is if people got injured, right? Like, to me, if I lived near a casino and I could go put money down, I would go throw a couple $1,000s down on the over on that one. And I'm not a betting guy. I don't bet, and I damn sure don't bet on teams that I follow and root for. But for me, I 100% would go throw down a couple grand on the over on this one. There's just no way in hell that again, barring injury, right? If this team stays healthy, this team is winning at least 11 games. I just don't see it otherwise. And if they win less than 8, everybody's getting fired regardless, right? So again, I don't see it. I think the floor on this team is 11 wins. I think the ceiling is somewhere between 13 and 14. That's how talented I think they are. That's the moves that they've made. So I'm excited for that. And we'll see what happens there. But for me, 7.5 is absolutely ludicrous when it comes to some bullshit like that. For them to think that the Falcons win 7 or 8 games for the 9th straight year and miss the playoffs, 8th straight year and miss the playoffs for the 8th straight year, it's laughable at best. It really is.
I mean, that's what they want us to believe, right? They want Atlanta to miss the playoffs so then they can point at us and be like, haha, they gave up their first round pick to the Rams. Look what they did, those idiots. But I'm telling you, even if we miss the playoffs, Jeffs, if that happens, which it's going to take a lot for that to happen, as long as James Pierce looks good, I'm still standing by it. I don't care if that pick is 15, 12, whatever. If James Pierce looks good, then it's worth it. You're taking your first round pick a year early. They felt strongly enough about him to trade that pick. That should give us a lot of comfort. And by the way, this year, everyone going crazy with us taking Walker, us taking Pierce, Watts, Bowman, whatever. We're all talking about how good Terry was at picking his players. So if he felt, just given how hot he was this year, if you, the fact that he was so high on Pierce should give everyone comfort in that. And I don't know that we would get, look, we're not going to finish with a top. I would be stunned if our pick ended up being in the top 10. Say we just ended up at 15. I don't know that we'd get someone at 15 next year with the draft equivalent to James Pierce.
No, you're not. Right. And when you look at next year's draft, you've got a couple of guys like the TJ Parkers who are going to come out and go in the first round. But next year's draft is not as deep as it was this year when it comes to pass rushers. And so I love what they did. If you get 3 sacks out of James Pierce as a rookie, 4 sacks as a rookie, you've hit on it. Because traditionally, when you go back and look, outside of Micah Parsons, not a whole lot of rookies do well producing as at that position. So, I'm happy with it. I don't care what happens as far as draft picks go. Great for LA to get their pick in 2026. We got ours in 2025, and so I'm happy with it, regardless of what happens. Unless James Pierce is just absolute trash, which I don't see him being. I love the pick, and I'm going to ride with it either way.
Man, I would be stunned if he's trash, Jeff. I mean, I have really high hopes for my Knoxville boy. So hopefully he comes through on that. But again, let's circle back to that 7.5. I know, for those of you that don't bet and gamble, that 7.5 is fairly low, especially for a team that was pretty freaking close. I mean, look, we had that meltdown in the beginning, but we were in pole position to win that, to get the NFC South, sitting at 6-3, and then all of a sudden Cousins implodes, and basically that's where our season went. But when you start putting us in the same light as the So, for example, the Panthers over under win total is 6.5 games. We are better than one game compared to the Panthers. I promise you that. I know they had that stretch that people are hanging on to, but I think a lot of people, media, they just want to be right about Bryce Young. This is why the Panthers are getting pushed. And by the way, last year, Jeff, if you listen to podcasts, gambling podcasts, and all that, you should have seen the amount of people talking about how, oh, Bryce Young just had a terrible rookie season. They are going to bounce back. Panthers week 1 against the Saints, bet on this. Like, this was their bet of the year. It's so disgusting to bet on the Panthers, but you got to take this bet. And what the hell happened? They got absolutely dismantled by the Saints week 1. The same thing's going to happen here. Everyone's going to think they're slick. By the way, Bryce Young looks so good at the end. Did you see what he did to the Falcons? That's how they're going to talk, Jeff. They're going to think that they're going to start off week 1 hitting the ground running, and I think that the Panthers are going to be in for a rude awakening. If you ask me to pick a dark horse in this division, I think the Saints with Shuck have a better shot at surprising people than the Panthers do with Bryce Young.
Yeah, and that's saying something, right? Because I don't think Shuck is going to be all that great, to be honest with you. And so for me, it's just if the Falcons are going to go 7-10 or 8-9, that means the winner of this division is going to win 9 games. They're going to go 9-8. Because the Falcons to me are going to be up there when it comes to this division. Is this division what it was 10 years ago when you had 3 MVP quarterbacks between Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, and Drew Brees? No, it's not there, right? Like, it's fallen quite a bit, but it's still a competitive. It's still a competitive division, right? Like, it's still you may not be all that great as far as what this talent was 10 years ago with those three quarterbacks. But this division is kind of all fallen together, right? Like, there's really still not a whole lot of separation. And so, when you look at the quarterbacks in this division, you have to say Baker Mayfield is one until otherwise proven. Do I think Michael Penix ends up being better than Baker? Of course I do. But right now, Baker's number 1 because he's proven it on the field. I think Michael Penix is a close 2. And then I agree with you. I would even say a rookie, regardless of it's Shut or somebody else in New Orleans, I still think they're better than Bryce Young. Bryce Young, I think he's a great kid. I think he's a terrible NFL quarterback. I don't give a damn how good Jimmy Lake's defense made him look last year in Game 16, right? Week 17. I don't care. I think he's more along the lines of the quarterback we saw there weeks 1 through 5 before he got benched, not what we saw there in Week 18. So I'm not impressed with him. I'm not enamored with him. Panthers fans are absolute morons. That fan base, they want everybody. They really think that every team in this division is their rival. You got the I-85 rival with the Falcons. No, you don't, bitch. We don't even know you exist until you end up on the schedule that week. The Panthers. I mean, the Panthers. The Bucks don't give a damn about you, and neither does New Orleans. Like, you are literally the redheaded stepchild of this division. We wouldn't acknowledge your existence except for you're on our schedule twice a year, and then we're forced to acknowledge your existence for a total of 14 days. So, they can, I'm not enamored with them. I don't think they did enough to be competitive this year. And I also don't know that they'll ever be competitive with Bryce Young at quarterback.
Jeff, it's so funny because every time we play the Panthers and we go into their house, for whatever reason, even the years where we're not good, I have zero fear in that game. But on the flip side, anytime we walk into New Orleans, Tampa Bay, I'm scared. Like, I get nervous for that game in New Orleans because I know how crazy it can get. And maybe I'm kind of scarred from the Drew Brees years in the Sean Payton era or whatever. Like, I get that too. But the Panthers, literally, even the year that they were good, right? And they went to the Super Bowl. Don't forget, these idiots were about to go undefeated, but then lost to us in that game in the Georgia Dome where Julio Jones had one of his best catches over Luke Kuechly to win that game. So we were like at the bottom of that division and you still couldn't go undefeated and beat us that year like that. I mean, that kind of defines our relationship with them, Jeff. Like, it's freaking wild to me. at how how much they think they have a rivalry with us. But really, for me, I think the number one rivalry in this, and maybe it's historical too, right? Like Tampa Bay and Carolina are newer teams. Obviously, Carolina being the newest. Tampa Bay, I think, was in the 80s. Falcons, Saints, 60s. Like, we've had this long-standing rivalry with the Saints. I don't think anything will ever come close to that.
No, not at all. I completely agree. And it is what it is. Let's just kick off, man. I'm tired of listening to the Panthers fans talk. I'm tired of the shit talking that they do all over X as if they've won something meaningful in the last 10 years. I know as Falcons fans, we can't really talk either because, well, we haven't been that good in almost a decade. But I feel like things are finally starting to turn around here.
Yeah, for sure. Week 3 at Carolina, that's going to be a fun